What's up, everybody? Welcome to We Have Cool Friends, the cool show. We interview our cool friends about the cool things they're doing. I'm Greg, and this is my cool friend, Scott Bromley.
What's going on, inner tubes?
Inner tubes.
Inner tubes.
Scott, what? It's been 7 years, I think, since people have been calling for the Scott Bromley comedy button kind of funny / Greggy crossover.
Really?
Yeah.
I think this, but I also think this is the second time that we've ever podcasted together. As long as we've known
in our independent career, right? Like outside of the walls.
No. In the walls, within the walls of IGN.
Then you're a fucking liar. You're a liar. Because I did comedy button. I did comedy button 200. One of the milestone episodes.
No, I was saying we did comedy button. I was saying at IGN. I think we did maybe one other time.
Yeah, we did a game. There was some drunk like.
It was NVC.
NVC?
Yeah.
I have photos on my phone still of us drunk after a 21st Amendment whatever party in the podcast room. Maybe that never went live.
That episode never went live. Actually, speaking of that, you know what I found from our old IGN days? I found when we prank called someone who was upset that America's Most Wanted was canceled.
Sure.
And they were calling Jim Riley because he had the same exact name as a Fox executive.
Yeah.
And they left the number, and we called him back and told him it was coming back for a Christmas special where we finally catch the Hamburglar and bring him to justice. Anyway,
those are the days. You could do whatever you wanted. You know what I mean? Anything you wanted at IGN.
It was the Wild West.
Now they're all serious about everything. Scott, you're one of our cool friends. I assume most people know you either from the comedy button. What was that now?
I said doubt it.
No.
We have way cooler friends.
No, we don't. Because you're not only are you comedy button, but then also, of course, you went over and started working on some Star Wars shows. Isn't that right?
I did. I've been working over at Lucasfilm for 5 years. 5 years this year.
That's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. That's the longest I've ever had a job.
Wow. And so now you have the new show, Star Wars Jedi Temple Battles, correct?
Yeah, Jedi Temple Challenge. Yeah, it's
sorry. I'm thinking of the game. Sorry.
No, it's fine. You're okay. No, it's a kids game show in the vein of all those Nickelodeon game shows that we watched years and years ago, but with a Star Wars.
Yeah. So 3 episodes are up now, right? The 4th one comes out tomorrow. Is that right?
Fourth one comes out tomorrow. Yeah, we did 10 episodes for the first season. It was insane. It's a super fun show. It's 3 rounds where kids are trying to prove their strength, knowledge, and bravery and become Jedi Knights. Hosted by Ahmed Best, who was known as Jar Jar, and Mary Holland from Muppet Citizens Brigade is the droid.
Yeah.
And oh my God, it was just like people have said, I've done a lot of stuff in my career. And I'm like, oh, is that your dream? No, this show was my dream show.
Yeah.
This was the one that I've wanted to make my entire career. I mean,
so how did this happen? How did you get them to do this? Because as long as I've known you, you've been obviously obsessed with Double Dare and every other Nickelodeon game show. Yeah. And then for you to go to Star Wars and then make this happen.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say at IGN, in my cubicle, I had a picture of Mark Summers on the wall of my cubicle. Him and Ken Ober, rest in peace, host of Remote Control on MTV.
Yeah.
But what happened was I have been, I do a lot of the creative stuff for the videos. I come up with the ideas and write basically almost all of the videos that appear online for Star Wars, write and produce those. And we were launching Star Wars Kids and the YouTube channel. And then one of the things is we were developing different shows for way down the line for the internet. And this was something that I put on the list, like a paragraph thing of what I would want to do, what I would want this show to be. And then my boss said, oh, you should talk to Steve Blank, who is a member of the story group at Lucasfilm. And we've worked together. Steve Blank has been working on the Star Wars show with us for years. So it wasn't like he was a stranger. So sure. I just went downstairs to his office. I was like, so you have an idea for a kid show too? And then we combined both of our ideas and made it into one. And then as it was developing, it moved out of an internet show, and then it was a Disney Plus original. So we made the show for Disney Plus, and then as we finished the show and the world changed, we're like, hey, let's kids are at home. Let's show it to as many kids as possible and put
Oh.
it back on YouTube. So that's what happened. So
That makes a lot of sense
they
because this
just
morning, I turned on Disney Plus looking for it because I wanted to
yeah,
catch up, and I was like,
yeah,
"Wait, what?" And then I went and I'm like, "Oh," and I watched them all on YouTube or whatever. And I was
yeah,
like, "Okay, cool, I'm caught up."
no, we put it on there. But the way it happened was it was one of those things where you pitch an idea and it just goes away for a while and you don't hear anything about it, and then they're like, "Hey, what about that game show?" And then I write up another pitch and then I send it in, and they're like, "Okay, cool, 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 cool." And then you don't hear anything, and then they come back like, "Hey, what about the game show?" And then by the third time that it happened, it just started snowballing and getting bigger and bigger. And Steve and I are looking at each other, going like, what's happening? Are they making this? Are they making this?" And we kept on expecting. We were joking when we were on set shooting the show that it was going to be like 30 Rock, and they were going to come in and be like, "Shut it down, shut it down, dream's over, shut it down." But no, it just kind of happened, and it took about 2 years from
Wow.
start to finish. Yeah, it took about 2 years from start to finish, um, from them saying, "Here's the idea," to go make it, because we shot it in November.
Okay.
But around this time this time last year we were heavy into pre-production on it.
So to go further back, 5 years now working on
Yeah,
Star Wars and making these shows and stuff. What were your, I guess, expectations when you took the job? Because it was something that I think we've seen so many different times. Brands be like, "Oh, we're gonna make a YouTube channel. We're gonna do
yeah.
this. We're gonna make shows." And then a year and a half in, they're like, "All right, pull the plug. We're done. We're not doing this anymore."
Well, I think one of the advantages in working for IGN and Discovery in the past, Rev 3, was those channels were all advertiser driven. So
Mhm.
you had to deliver. So this was the first time where it was just like, we are a brand putting out our thing, and you have the opportunity to grow and find your voice, and you don't have this constant pressure of it needs every single video needs to have a million hits.
Sure.
Otherwise, it's
VPH.
over. Yeah, no, I was actually gone by the time VPH
Oh,
became
were you?
a word. I was gone. Uh, I was gone. Yeah. Well, let's get the VPH.
We I don't
Uh,
know about this now.
7.9. Um, so uh, when I came in, they were Sky Matt Martin, who's also in the story group, had this idea for a variety show on the internet, and I said, "Okay, I have done internet videos before. I can help you kind of develop this show out and build it out and give it a voice and a unique perspective." And I was brought in, and then immediately after I was brought in, they were like, "We have to put it on hold because Force Awakens is coming out. So hang tight for a year." And so during that year, I was working on the show that tied into Star Wars Rebels that they were doing, and I came in, and I think there were 3 or 4 episodes into the first season when I started,
Yeah.
and much like GameSpy debriefings over at IGN, you can tell when I walked through the door because everything got weirder. Um, it was very straight laced, and then all of a sudden, I started doing these because there was a droid named Chopper from the show, and we had the only full size 1-to-1 version, and they did these interstitials called Chopper cams. And when I came in for my interview, I said, "Hey, you can make this show a whole lot better if you turn the Chopper cam thing into a live action cartoon in the middle of the show." And they're like, "Oh, okay, what would you do?" And so I pitched a whole bunch of ideas, and then I got hired. I came in and I started changing the the whole the structure for the show remained the same, but the vibe changed a little bit. It got a little goofier, it got a little wackier. And I slowly and secretly didn't reveal this until we were 4 seasons in, that every single chopper cam was connected in one overarching story. So every single 30-second short connected to the last one, even though they felt self-contained. It told a whole story of a droid getting a job, falling in love, getting his heart broken, losing the job, getting shipped off to London, coming back thinking he's bigger than he is, and then his redemption arc.
You're insane.
Yeah, it's the long con, Greg. It's
Oh,
the
I'm
long con.
I know the
and
Scott Bromley long con.
yeah. So after that, I kept on developing Star Wars show in the background and went through the process of um, we during that year that we weren't allowed to make the show yet. We were able to develop and try out bits that no one would ever see. There are still segments and stuff that people will never ever see that we were piloting basically to try and get everything right. And that was the beauty of this that I wouldn't get at IGN with something like Bad News, how you guys did up at noon, and
Yeah.
we had like a week to figure that out.
Yeah.
A week or two. But now we had a year to develop the ideas like, oh, this doesn't work. Let's try this. Let's try this. And even when you launch, stuff doesn't work.
Did you did you believe it? Because that would be my thing is like, you worked on current TV, you worked at IGN, and I feel like at both these places, I can't speak for your entire current TV career, but we're working on when we're trying to get the IGN show going. It always felt like just as you were getting up to a jog, right? Right as you were like, all right, cool, I'm working on the things I want to work, somebody would take your legs out, right? And
So I was going to say, yes, I have a tremendous amount of PTSD for that. And I still 5 years in, I still have enough stuff in my office and folded up cardboard boxes that I can pack it all up and leave in a day and fit it in my car
yeah.
if I need to, because it was a recurring thing in my career where I would just be laid off every year. It would be like a year and change. So
Yeah.
actually, in the interview with Lucasfilm, they said, "What's your 5-year plan?" And I just said, "I want to go to 2 Christmas parties." And they're like, "Oh, that's funny." And I was like, "No, really, I want to go to
Help
2.
me, save me.
Help me. I've never been to 2 Christmas parties at a company before."
Well,
But
that was the
also,
story that stuck around even after you were gone. Is that you were like the dog that senses the earthquake. Where the night before you were like, I'm gonna get laid off tomorrow at IGN, and I think it was Colin, right? And he's like, no, you're not.
yeah,
Like, don't worry.
yeah. No,
And you went and
I told Colin because we were living together in your old apartment before you moved in.
kind of funny. His first studio.
First studio, which your studio was what I dubbed the virginity den when I was living there, because that's where I put all my nerdy shit. Was all
It
in
lived
there.
up to its name even after you were gone.
I'm very happy with that window looking out to nothing. The window looking out to a fire escape.
Exactly, looking at it, a moldy ass fire escape.
Yeah. But I think it was the day they purchased One Up and the press release went out, and Colin's like, "Oh, cool, we're gonna get bigger," and I was like, "I'm getting shit canned tomorrow," and he's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Watch," and then sure enough, I was gone, and then that happened at Rev 3 when I got laid off over there. I knew 2 days before, so I packed up. I like the 2 days going into it, I had started packing up my office and bringing it home in my car little by little. So by the time they let me go, I just had one thing left. I was like, "Cool, bye." Like even in the exit interview with the woman, I was like, "All right, yeah, I know, Cobra, I know, I've done this before. Let's come on, I'm gonna catch a cab." So it's just, I don't know if it's the places I had worked before were really bad at hiding it, but just like once you see conference rooms where the shades are closed and a
Yeah.
bunch of manila envelopes with different HR people that aren't normally on the floor that you're on walking around, that's the canary in the coal mine that I would always look for. So now it's difficult because in my department at Lucasfilm, we're right next to HR.
Okay. So you have to keep it down. Keep it
So,
down.
well, it's not keep it down. It's just I don't know what's afoot at any given moment. Like
Sure, all your
they're
warning signs don't work
oh
anymore.
no, nothing. Yeah.
So you come in with that attitude. Like, do you come in like as a huge Star Wars fan? Do you come in expect like this is the lifelong dream? This is what you're gonna do?
I I came in I came in more like this is my last stop in San Francisco before I have to move back to LA.
Gotcha.
Because it was like one of the last shops you could work for in the Bay Area before going back to LA. And I was there more so like, okay, I've done video games for a long time. Let's see what I can do given a brand that has had years of fans making goofy films and stuff. So it has this legacy of people being able to be creative within the brand.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, this is going to be a fun playground as long as I stay within the bounds and don't go too crazy.
And so when you come on and do that, right? You've been existing in the wild west of the internet for so long with Comedy Button and Max talking about trying to suck his own dick. Like, do you do you worry about that as you go to like apply for a job with
Oh, of
Disney? Of like,
course.
yeah,
Oh, of course. But the thing with that is, I have always treated that job as, if you are a stand-up comedian, you can go out at night and perform stand-up. That is completely, and during the day you can be an insurance salesman.
mm,
You
mm,
know, you can separate between the two, and this is just it's a performance that I do outside of work. Once I got the job, we made sure that, and this happened when Ryan was working for Microsoft. Like, we would never bring up Microsoft for Ryan. We would never bring up Star Wars for me or
yeah,
Disney for me, just so there's no there's no excuse for us to do to to get into areas that'll be
yeah, to
detrimental
slip
to
up, right,
anyone
and
else.
do the just
Yeah,
say the one thing that it doesn't fly and get you in trouble.
exactly, exactly. So since I have worked there, we haven't we I mean, it's such a huge cultural phenomenon that of course it comes up,
Yeah,
but we're never actively shitting on it. So for good reason.
yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
So when you took the job, was there ever a chance that you were going to stop doing Comedy Button?
um I never ever thought I was going to stop.
Yeah,
Because at the time, and I was coming into this going, okay, well, I need to bring my bags because I have a year here and then I'm going to be out, and then Comedy Button will float me until I get another job.
yeah,
So there was never any point where I was like, I'm going to quit this. Also, um, it's less about making the show for me now, and more about like, hey, I get to talk to my friends for an hour a week,
yeah.
you know, which, as we get older, it just becomes harder and harder to do because you have more priorities and
Oh, totally.
things that need to
I
get
mean,
done.
I feel like this is a great example of it, right? The only time I ever sit down with my friends anymore is to podcast. And it's
Yeah,
not because you don't like your friends, it's because
no,
you have your shit and I have my shit. And there's so many things going on right now that when you do have that one weekend off, and granted, this was before pandemic, when
right.
you had one weekend off, I'm going to fucking sit on the couch and play a game. I'm going to
Oh,
go out with my wife.
this is why I keep saying the pandemic I've been thriving,
Yeah.
because my wife loves to travel, and so she's always traveling everywhere and taking me with her, and I have always wanted the weekend on the couch and
Yeah.
just the weekend to stop down and do nothing. And this has been I don't know how many weekends now, 30 weekends
We've stacked
of
them up for sure.
30 of the best weekends ever. I'm just staying inside. And also, like, I can't go out because I'm immunocompromised.
Yeah.
So I have to stay indoors in my apartment, and it's been fabulous. I love it.
How do and I know this is going to sound the stupidest thing because everybody does, but
Yeah.
like, do you have those kind of bad days, like where during this pandemic where you are upset and you are angry and you do want to go out? Because that's the thing about you, even knowing you at IGN, and listening to stuff you do and watching stuff you do, you are one of those people that I feel is always happy. And I know you're not, and
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I definitely remember you're talking about the layoffs at IGN, and I remember everybody, the other folks who got laid off coming out crying, one coming out extremely angry, and you came out, you laid on your desk and you held a town hall and you just talked to everybody. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? How do I feel? How do I emotionally deal with anything right now?
Well, it's only because I had been through it so many times.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'd been shot so many times that I knew what it felt like. Um, I haven't had any bad. I like ever since I had the spleen thing happen in 2007, when I lost my spleen and died on the table. I've had like this outlook of, enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah,
Because, and like, sure, I miss hanging out with my friends. I miss going over to my friend Jack's house and making pizza in his pizza oven, but I know this isn't permanent.
yeah,
And I know that this is just temporary, and I have to be resigned to my situation that I'm in. So I came to terms and became at peace with it pretty early on. So now the only bad, frustrating times I have with it is when my wife is upset, and she's hit her limit, and I'm I'm just over in the corner like, well, it's whatever, Peacock's launching, we can watch Punky Brewster, who cares? uh, and she's like, but I miss people, and I'm like, well, I'm here. She's like, you're always here, this doesn't matter to you. So, but she's also out there every day, because
Yeah.
she works in the medical field, so she's out there every day experiencing it. So
Great person to be teamed up with you in your immunocompromised system.
Oh, oh my God, it's great. I feel like I'm just doing it on hard mode. But she takes this dated reference for all the people over 40 in the audience. But she comes home every day and does a Silkwood shower where she's just showering off every contaminant on her body before she walks in.
That's great.
Yeah, no, it's fun.
No stress, no added stress to the pandemic.
Like I said, I'll be on the couch.
So you bring up the spleen thing where you died on the table.
Yeah.
This is obviously everybody should listen to the comment button. Everybody should know your stories. If they don't know, what's the story there?
I had back in 2007, I had mono and I didn't know it. I just thought I was sick. We were launching current.com, which back in the day, actually, Altano used it. He was like, "Oh shit, you were the one pulling the strings on that?" I was like, "Yeah, that was me." We were launching this huge website and working like 18-hour days, and I thought when you have mono, it just feels like a cold, but your spleen expands. And I was also simultaneously moving to a new apartment in San Francisco, a 3-story walk-up, and I decided to move in by myself, which just kind of did everything you should possibly do wrong. And the night before, I was in so much pain, and I decided to go back to Sonoma to my parents' house because I had a doctor who would prescribe painkillers willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Good old Sonoma.
Yeah. And so I went the next day. He looked at me and he's like, you need to go to the hospital. And then I was in the hospital and the doctor pushed down on my chest, and he was like convinced that I was an alcoholic and this was like an inflammation of the liver or something. And when he did that, my spleen ruptured. And that was on a Monday. I woke up on a Thursday with the breathing tube in my throat in the ICU. Jesus. Didn't really know what day it was. And then my sister was like, oh yeah, you died on the table. And yeah, that was, after that, I was like, oh shit. Yeah. Life is short. I got to appreciate this more. I got to be less. I'm already, Anthony Carboni has always called me stress boy.
Yeah.
Because I'm just very high strung. But before that, it was even worse. I mean,
that's my thing. What were you like before then? Because that's the thing. I've always known you as this, and when I talk about Scott Bromley, I talk about a tuxedo shirt and just the most positive, funny guy I know, right? Because I remember you coming into those rooms at IGN, and I was like, wait, I'm the loud guy. Who's this guy? No, that's when you worked at Current before you got hired.
I still remember the first time we went out to the bar the day or night before I started. It was you, me, and Job, and you were like, you have an opportunity to overtake me as the loud guy. But before that, I was I gave myself my first ulcer when I was 10 because I couldn't make a birdhouse as good as I wanted to in Cub Scouts. So that's how high strung I was. I was a overachiever. I would focus. I was solely focused on success in whatever realm I entered. It was never sports. I was terrible at sports.
I stayed away from that realm, but everything else.
Well, I mean, my dad was like a jock, going into high school, seeing his name. He has unbreakable records that are still on the walls, and I'm just a fat kid in PE. Like, yeah, that'll never be me.
Yeah, I got to go with this make everybody laugh route. I know that one well.
Yeah, I know that one well. And thank God they were like super supportive of that. They're like, hey, if you like that, just follow that. Don't be the sad fat kid. Be the funny fat kid. But yeah, before that, I was super stressed. I would take on way too much. I never said no. I would just take it on, take as long as it took to get it done, get it out.
Yeah.
And it's not healthy.
Of course,
even now I'm still like that, but over the last I think if working at Lucasfilm has taught me anything, A, Gary Wood is right. Totally makes you fat. Um, B, it is extraordinarily stressful. It's one of the most stressful jobs I've ever had. But at the same time, I've learned to manage. As the years go by, I've learned to manage it much better than I did when I first started. When I first started, like one of the first things we did was a live stream for Star Wars Celebration, and we were going in there just working crazy hours. And now this year we were going to do, I think it was our fourth or fifth live stream from Celebration, which is it's E3 esque, but we were on we've become basically a main stage that people gather around and come, like all the celebrities come to our stage.
Sure.
But by last year, I was just like on autopilot for that. I flew into Chicago already done, like ready. I was just like, put me in my chair. I know what I'm doing. But years before, I would be up all night and just up till 5 a.m. or pulling all nighters.
Yeah.
Still leading up to the day. And by this time, I had everything written and done a good 2 weeks before the event even started.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And this was on top of developing and working on Jedi Temple Challenge and the Star Wars show and developing the Star Wars kids content that we were doing on there too. I had more on my plate this year, and it was the most relaxed I had been with it.
So then I think stress in, working yourself too hard is something so many people deal with. Like,
oh god, yeah.
What tips do you have? Was it strictly, or I mean, was it as easy at? Go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm the worst person to ask for tips on on stress, because I still am. I like Carboni, working with him on Star Wars. I did earn Stress Boy as the name because I always feel like, even though it's not true, I feel like if something fails, it's my fault.
Sure.
And if something isn't working right, it's my fault. And I should have anticipated that, and I'll beat myself up about it, which means the next time I take on a project, I take all of that baggage with me into the next project and just further spirals. So no, I'm the worst person to talk about stress management. I think the only thing that I've done that helps is repeating the same process over and over and over again.
Sure. Yeah, so, repetition, right?
So repetition and doing the same show, the same type of show every week, the same type of live event every year helps with how to anticipate where your pitfalls are going to be and how to avoid them. That's the only So that's the only thing that has helped the less stressful aspect of it. But I will say, with Jedi Temple Challenge, it was stressful, but it was also one of the least stressful projects I've worked on because there were so many people working on it.
Okay.
Like, it was because we're so used to working on internet where our crews are 5 people, and 2 of the 5 people are on camera, but they're also doing more behind the scenes.
Yeah, right.
Hi, Jen.
Jen says, Bromley says hi.
Hi, Bromley.
She says hi.
And with this show, we just had like 75 people on the crew, and then more behind the scenes. And it's just like, it was because it was a real TV show, and everyone had their duty, and it was like, oh, I don't have to worry about how that light is angled or how this shot is composed. Like, people are handling that. Like, I don't have to make sure that this line was hit in the script and pay attention to the continuity of this, because the script supervisor is there in the corner, and that's her job.
Yep.
So that was insane for me.
Isn't it crazy how much better everyone is at their job when they have one job? When you can focus.
God. Oh my God. And when we were shooting the show, we were still doing Star Wars show every week. So like, I'd have to disappear, and they're like, where is he going? You're the EP of this show. Where are you going? I was like, I got the internet show. I gotta write the script real quick. I gotta write that, and I gotta make sure, I gotta look at this and make sure this is all good. Okay, we're good. And then come back down to the set and sit in the chair and just watch everyone else work. And they just turn around and say, "Was that good?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, that was cool."
So yeah, what is an EP on a real show? What are your duties on set?
Well, my duty was Steve and I would basically we were the guardians of the creative on the entire show. So we had a writer, Collie Witt, who would write just the skeleton of the show, and he would give it to us, and then we would basically do a complete top to bottom rewrite,
Okay.
because Star Wars has very specific language and stuff, so we know it really well. So there are turns of phrase that we would have to put in there, and the way that the characters are talking. So we would change all of that. We'd rewrite that, and then we would come in, and it was just we had this great guy, Killian Plunkett, who did a bunch of designs and character designs for the Clone Wars. He worked in, I think he did Red Sun.
Oh shit, really?
I think he did Red Sun.
Okay.
But he's been working in the industry for years, and he came in, and we would get designs from our set designer, and then he would paint over them the, how they should look in Star Wars, because it's a very specific look. And then so we would walk around, and I would point out stuff to Killian. I was like, this is wrong. We need to fix this. And it was just like a checklist of things that needed to be fixed and things that were wrong. And then like designing the games, we had a guy who used to design games and stunts for Survivor, was designing all of our stuff on this show. And then Steve and I wanted to make sure that teamwork was a big element in all of the games. So we would come in with ideas on how to implement teamwork into every stunt that was already built, and try and build up a variety of that. But
Can I
like,
stop you there?
yeah,
Because as a
go
fan
ahead.
of the show, I have a question for you.
Yeah,
When you have the kids there, and so if people haven't watched it, right, it's starts with 3 teams of 2, right, and then
yeah,
we eliminate one. We start going down until we get to the ones that become Jedi's,
yeah.
and they have different challenges and all these things to do. What I love about it is the way the kids do work together through teamwork, but then also how polite they are. I think it's episode 2, but it might be episode 1, where they're trying to jump up to get the lightsaber hilt, and one of them can't do it, and the other's like, "Can I help you?" And they're like, "Yeah," and they tag out, and the other one comes in and immediately jumps up and get it.
Well,
Did
that was all them.
really?
That
I
was
was
all.
gonna
That was
wonder. My question was gonna be, do you stress beforehand, like, "Oh, you work as a team, go do this, kids"?
well, no, because what we did in casting the show, so we had a casting agency, and we told them what we wanted. We told them we wanted kids who were of a certain age, and they knew each other. They had to,
Mhm.
because the one thing in researching this show is whenever we saw teams on like Legends of the Hidden Temple, and even Carboni was on that show, he didn't know his partner.
Yeah,
And so we would see that, and there would just be this lack of communication between the kids. And same thing with Double Dare. Those teams, other than Family Double Dare, they were just 2 kids
they're
that
just thrown together.
they
Yeah,
just throw them together. And so if you are on a show with your sister or best friend, there is a shorthand that you guys know with one another, and you are trying to help each other because you don't hate each other, and you're not going to be embarrassed to ask for help
sure.
because you already know that person.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
when
yeah.
we were casting the show, and we would see how these kids interacted with each other in their audition tapes,
Oh,
because they sent in auditions explaining who they were, and then they sent in footage of them being active and doing stuff out in the real world in a jungle gym or something,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so we could see if they were capable of doing this kind of stuff.
Was it like an
But
open casting call, or was it like something on StarWars.com? Like, are you a big Star Wars kid fan?
it was a secret casting call, because
Okay.
with Star Wars you can't be like, hey, we're casting Star Wars, and then everyone starts showing up. It
Yeah.
just had to be a veiled casting call. And uh we when the kids arrived on set, they were just like super polite to one another. It's just this generation is very polite and very encouraging with one another. There was this team in an episode upcoming, and they lost, and they asked, when the cameras went off, can we stay behind and just cheer on them, because we become friends backstage.
That's awesome.
And it's just like, oh, it's the best. And then also, like, the kids would be in the costumes, and the big thing that Steve and I were worried about is, are they going to buy into this? Because kids are so cynical. They watch YouTube nonstop. They just watch Let's Plays, and they're very cynical. And so we thought, are they going to buy into the play element of this? And as soon as they put on the costumes and walked onto the set, which was a forest,
Yeah.
they bought into it immediately. And like they're saying Star Wars stuff unprompted. Like people are like, "Oh, did you script the kids to say use the Force or trust in the Force?" No, we did. They did that on their own because
That's awesome.
they bought into it. And Ahmed stayed in character the entire time. Mary stayed in character the entire time, except when she came out from the control room to meet the kids to be like, "I'm the lady who's doing the voice of this," and then Gordon would take off the mask, be like, "I'm the man inside the suit," put the mask back on.
That's
So,
incredible. Yeah, because
yeah,
watching it, I was like, I've never, made a shit. I can't remember last time I watched with a critical eye or an adult eye a kids game show. Right. I think all the stuff I watched growing up and
right,
how natural it seemed. I was wondering, yeah, what you had to give them or
yeah.
tell them ahead of time.
Well, even on top of that, when we were making the show, there were two things that I kept harping on. I kept harping on playground ability when building the sets and the stunts because I wanted kids to watch the show and be able to play it on the playground, see it and
Mm,
see
mm.
one-to-one representations like that kind of looks like this, that kind of looks like this on the playground. But the other thing that I kept saying is I want to make the show I thought I was watching because when I go back, because everyone's like, "Oh, I love Legends of the Hidden Temple. It was like so amazing. It was huge, and it was like this big temple and smoky." And then you go back and you watch the show,
Yeah.
and it is janky and cheap, and 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 like the show you made up in your head was so much more grand than the actual show you watched. So I wanted to make sure that the show was as grand in person and on screen as it was for
That's
me.
incredible.
So I was trying to make the show that we were making.
As you said, like, it got going and got slowly rolling. You got teamed up and like all this other stuff. When do you see the other folks at Lucas and Disney look in and be like, "Oh my gosh, this is something really cool"?
Oh, right away. My
Yeah.
my boss, Mickey, not Mouse. He's Mickey Campbell. My boss's name is really Mickey. He's been my boss for 5 years, and so he's been shepherding this through as well. So he is known, and he's wanted to make this type of show for years as well. So he's just very gung ho and very supportive and pushing it through as much as he can. And he was the one that really got it over the finish line. Uh, but that was through just constant meetings and different meetings and bringing it up in different meetings that he was in that I wasn't in because he was a big champion of this getting off the ground.
How, and I don't know if it's possible to enumerate it, but like people always talk about their successes in the show you have now, right? That's available.
Mhm.
Jedi Temple challenge right now, Star Wars Kids. How many things at Star Wars have you pitched that just haven't gone anywhere?
Tons.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just like so much stuff that, and even in my career and the stuff that you've known, there has been for every successful project, there are 15 failed ones. But I will say that at Star Wars, I have over the years, I have gotten better at pitching projects that I know have a chance of moving forward to the next
Mm,
round,
mm,
not necessarily getting off the ground, but moving beyond the initial pitch.
gotcha.
I think it took me a long time to figure out what is going to get past the person that needs to give you the money. And that is the trickiest. That is the trickiest thing to learn when you're developing these shows. But there's been a lot of stuff that I've wanted to do that we haven't been able to do either because it's too crazy or will cost too much money or will be a total failure. And we have those things in the back of our like we all know we want to do it, but we
Yeah,
also all know we can't do it.
sure.
So it'll still get pitched every week. Like, hey,
The dream book.
we should do this. We're like, yeah, we should. We should. Can't, but we can't. Um, but yeah, there's been a project, a um if there's I generally deal with nonfiction a lot. There's been a narrative story that I've been trying to get off the ground for about 4 years.
Okay.
And yeah, if it gets off the ground, by the grace of God, it'll get off the ground. But it has been stuck in the same spot for 4 years, and I will still go back and try and get it made.
I know you can't tell me about it, but
Yes.
from what you've just said, what is the holdup to it? Is it that it is too grand, or is it that there's a timing, or
It is much like the a children's game show. It is a realm within the franchise that has never been explored before.
oh, okay.
So it's something that has never been seen before, hasn't been asked for, but is something that I really, really want to do because I think it's interesting. So
I understand.
I'm trying to be as vague as possible.
No,
Um,
totally. So,
like it's not as I wouldn't say it's a sitcom,
okay,
but it is light.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
So, for you, was it that you get the job and you sit down and watch all the movies again, watch all the cartoons, and then go out and start pitching and ideas and stuff like that? And then do you do refresher courses? Do you run back through it? Is it all secondhand knowledge by now, or
I well, truth be
secondhand
told,
knowledge?
I've told this to my coworkers. I got the job and I still hadn't seen episode 2, Attack of the
Okay,
Clones. I still had
yeah,
not seen the Anakin I Hate Sand
sure, yeah,
movie. I have since seen
of
it a
course,
couple of times.
yeah,
Um, but I think that doing the refresher course, so to speak, and it kind of comes to you through osmosis. And I still like to keep I still like to not get so close to the material because you
mm,
become precious about the material,
mm,
in my opinion. So like I've seen the sequel, the latest movies as many times as I went to cast and crew screening, and
okay,
maybe once at home, maybe, but that's it. And
sure,
I have I do have a photographic memory, so I can remember specific details and lines from the movie after seeing it once. So like that's all I needed. Um, but I would go in there and I would pitch ideas that I found interesting that I thought could work in the internet space. And because I know and I've been working in the internet space for so long, I feel like I understand what that audience reacts to. So it's just like put the Star Wars piece here, put the internet piece here, mash them together. Now kiss.
slam it together
Yeah,
over and over
yeah,
again.
yeah. It's like action figures.
When we work together, and
Yeah.
obviously when you listen to the comedy button, what always stood out to me in your comedy is your amazing ability to improv and just come up with stuff off the
Oh,
top of your head and go, right? Do you like working within the boundaries of Star Wars? Because that's like somebody else's IP, right? And that's it's like somebody they're giving you a box full of toys and you get to do what you want with them. But obviously, for the most part, I guess I would say you're for the most part you're playing with established things. But do you get to bring in your own creativity, your own creations, this thing, or do you miss that, or am I
oh
all over the map?
no, absolutely. Like we still get to do that. I mean, the thing with Star Wars show is that because it's reality based, all of the scripting that we do is within the real world and we can bring our own personalities and improv into it. Like Carboni is amazing at
Yeah.
improv,
Oh,
and I will write a tiny thing and be like, I know that you can take this into a billion different directions, so do it. And I don't stop them. So we will always we will always shoot what's written. We'll always shoot an alt that's even safer than what's written, and then we'll just shoot and
that's awesome.
improv and find the voice. And I think that's how uh, having the freedom to find that voice gets us out of the preciousness of the IP and the restrictions of the IP. And I think that's totally important. One of my favorite projects I ever worked on was dealing with two different IPs at once. It was
Which were
I,
you?
it was I rewrote A New Hope as an episode of Arrested Development, and we had Ron Howard narrate it because he was directing Solo at the time, and we did it as a promo for Solo. That was the hardest I've ever worked on a script
Yeah.
because as I started working on it, they told me in order for Ron Howard to do it, he has to approve it, Mitch Hurwitz has to approve it, and Brian Grazer has to approve it. They
No
have to
pressure.
no pressure at all. They all have to read your script and like it. And so so I wrote the script. I wrote a couple drafts. A couple drafts went internally, and I got some good notes internally. And then once we submitted it to all those guys, it came back with no notes. And I was like, "Oh, I did it!
Yeah,
I,
wow, right?
I wrote a 4-minute episode of Arrested Development. All right, all my TV watching is paid off. I know the cadence of this show." But like my wall, the wall in my office mapping that out looked like a crazy person.
I can
Because
imagine.
I was like, here's the because I watch so much television. I know the ABC storylines that you have to hit in sitcoms. And I was like, here's the A storyline for Star Wars. Here's the B storyline. Here's the C storyline. How does A meet B? How does B meet C? How does A meet C? And how do they all resolve together at the end? So it was just,
That's
watching that.
crazy.
I watched that movie. I think I watched A New Hope 9 times to be able to script that correctly.
Yeah.
And we have versions at work that we work with that don't have the John Williams soundtrack.
Okay.
So the soundtrack is pulled out of it.
Sure.
And boy, if you want to see a boring, unimpactful scene that is plussed up by John Williams, watch Luke looking at the sunrise without music. That is a completely different scene without any music. It is just like, what is this weirdo doing? He's just looking at the sun.
Staring off the two
Yeah.
suns. chilling
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Do me a favor since we're here and we're talking
Okay.
about writing for Ron Howard, writing a 4-minute episode of Arrested Development. Take me back to being a fat 10-year-old in the
Mhm.
gym looking at your dad's names.
Yep.
What did you want to do? What was your course?
I I took a stop motion animation class at the Boys and Girls Club when
Mhm.
I was 10, and I was like, "Oh man, this is amazing! I love this." And then I kind of knew early on that that's what I wanted to do, so I would start drawing and sculpting and making my own short films as a kid, and then um, God, it's like saying Voldemort now. John Lasseter moved in next door.
Don't say it. It
He's
was like Beetlejuice. Don't say it 3 times.
I know. I have a complete like he was my next door neighbor for years, so I know him on a personal level. Um, and he was like, "Hey, you can do this for a living." He was making the first Toy Story
Okay.
when he moved in, so I would go with him, and his stepson was the same age as me. We were in the same class together, and we became friends. We would go to Pixar while they were making the first Toy Story,
Wow.
and I would get to sit in on dailies for that and see what it was like to work in an actual animation studio and meet all of the people. And I also played Doom for the first time at Pixar. At five
All right.
o'clock, 5 o'clock, they would shut down production and open up the LAN, and they would all do LAN Doom at 5 o'clock in
Hell
Pixar
yeah.
back in the day. It was pretty sweet. But like, I have a lot of great memories of growing up, just immersed in animation because of this fortunate person moving next door.
Sure.
And like, I remember there was a private screening of the movie in Sonoma before it opened, and it was me, John, Pete Doctor, and Andrew Stanton, and um, Joe Ranft, and we were all sitting in a corner together, and they were like asking me like, "Do you think people will like this movie? Do you think they're gonna like it? Do you think they're gonna? I don't know. Are they gonna respond to it?" And it was just like these 4 people who changed animation forever, doubting what they were doing and wondering if it was going to be big. Like that's one of my favorite memories growing up. But because of that, all these guys, they all went to Cal Arts. That's where I went as well. I was constantly doing figure drawing, working in animation, did animation, had my heart broken by animation, and then moved
Well,
back
I
and
just couldn't. So it's
it
what?
was
Why?
just it's just such a it will grind you up if you
Yeah.
don't have. And I think if I stuck with it, I would have been fine. But I was so young and like had my heart just crushed that it made me jaded to the whole thing. So I was like, screw it, leave it behind. And like a lot of my friends that I went to school with, they're all super successful, but a lot of them, tale as old as time, they stopped drawing once they didn't have to anymore.
Sure.
So
Well,
it
that's
was a,
when your passion, your hobby becomes your career, your job, right? And it is what you're doing nonstop. It's hard to
yeah,
turn it off, and it's hard to find the joy you found when it was your escape.
precisely. So they all, they're all still making animated series, but they're running them instead of
They're not
doing,
actually at the helm or at the
yeah,
table.
yeah, yeah. Um, so that's by doing that, as a kid, I would watch The Simpsons and I would take notes. I would watch something dumb I used to do was I would watch
Were
Mystery
your
Science.
notes? Wait. Were your notes about pacing? Were they about
Yes,
animation joke?
they
Okay,
were about pacing. It was about how the sitcom was structured, how the show was structured, the ABC storyline. I
gotcha.
would watch the show and take notes on how it was structured. I would watch. Uh, I loved Mystery Science Theater growing up,
Oh yeah.
and there would be jokes in there that I didn't understand, so I would write it down and then go to the library to research why it was funny, what the joke was, why it was funny. Um, yeah, I was a big nerd. Um, but by doing that, my parents were super supportive of it. And even when, my dad would be yelling at me to do my homework while I was watching reruns of The Simpsons at 6 o'clock, I'd be like, "I'm doing research,"
You'll
and that
see,
was,
Dad. It's a payoff.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's literally what I told him because when I won the Emmy, they were there with me, and I was like, "See, this is why I was watching The Simpsons. I told you I was doing research." Um, but yeah, I would watch that, and then I luckily had a lot of exposure to the animation industry early on that pushed me in that direction. Um, and I loved comedy as a kid. There used to be this thing in Golden Gate Park, which doesn't happen anymore. It was so rad. They would do Comedy Day, and it was free. It was a giant stand-up festival in the park
Wow.
on a weekend. They did it. They did it like through the '80s and barely into the '90s, but that was a big thing with my family. We would just go there, and then that made me fall in love with comedy. And I would tape Letterman, I would tape Conan, so I could watch them. I was
Sure.
way into that type of sketch comedy. Like I remember the first episode of SNL I ever watched. It was Woody Harrelson from the 15th anniversary season. The first segment after the monologue was a fake commercial for Action Cats, and that changed me forever. I was like, "Holy shit, you can do this! You can make fake commercials. This is amazing!" Yeah, and just falling in love with television taught me comedic pacing, I think, and it taught me a lot about how how jokes work, how jokes land, and how to structure my own to land in a situation. I was just a dork. I
That's
just like
awesome.
TV. I just like TV a lot.
Yeah, but you like TV on another level. A lot of people
I
like TV.
I
Like
I
you like the science and creation of TV, which is so cool.
I love television. I
Yeah.
love television like more than anything. I just love the entertainment industry. I had a deal with I used to buy comics at this store that is a gas station now called Dadaz in Sonoma. And it was this old Greek dude who ran it, and he would always smoke cigars behind the counter. And he had every magazine imaginable except Daily Variety. And as a kid, I would watch this show on MTV hosted by Chris Connolly called The Big Picture.
Yeah,
And he
I
would
remember.
always, yeah, and he was the EIC of Premiere Magazine. He had Premiere Magazine, so I would get it, but he didn't have Variety because he would always quote Variety. And so I asked him, I said, "Hey, can you get Variety?" And he said, "As long as you buy it, I'll get it." So every day I would ride down to Dada's, buy Daily Variety, which if you've ever read Variety, makes no fucking sense. It's just like Paramount Biz is Boffo and Chief CEO goes nutso, and it's just like all these super weird terms. But I would read it and learn the names of everyone who was involved in the production of it, and so I would have my own internally running IMDb in my head where I'd be like, oh, this person worked on this movie because I remember their name from this article and they're doing this. So I remember what they did on that movie. Oh, I bet their version of this is going to be just extraordinary. I can't wait to go see it. And then it's Hudson Hawk and you get disappointed. And Ryan Scott will kill me for that because he loves Hudson Hawk.
God, that's incredible. Yeah, I love that kind of story, and I love that that's yours.
I like I said, I had a photographic memory for this. Like one of my favorite games still to play is guess the movie within the first 2 seconds based on the font of the first production title in association with on the actual film. If I can like guess the font and know what the movie is.
So then now what does that look like for you? Is it, well, I guess pandemic screws it up, but like when you're done with work, is it immediately watching television? Is it watching a movie? I mean, are you just buying and consuming content nonstop?
With movies, we before the pandemic, we had the theater at work. So it's like every Thursday night you can go to the movies at work and they would just bring stuff in that's either just coming out, hasn't been released yet, or has been out for a week and you can just go see it whenever. Also screeners, because I get screeners now, so I can watch that kind of stuff. But as far as television, like I watch everything. Coming home, I love watching TV. My wife hates it. I love it. I will, and she'll ask me like, "Is this show good?" I was like, "Nah, it's not worth your time." But I'll binge the entire series. And I don't know why. I love television. I love watching TV. So coming home from work, and with video games, I used to really, really like video games until I worked at IGN. When we did the trophy war, for PS3 trophies, that broke me.
You won though. You won.
I
At
won.
what cost? At what cost?
At what cost? And the cost was I never picked up my PlayStation 3 again. I like having to play Miley Cyrus, Area 51. The game that broke me was Alone in the Dark.
Sure.
Alone in the Dark, having to platinum that piece of shit broke me.
Yeah.
And that was also when I think it was the error happened that took down the whole PlayStation network. That was a big to do. And I was like, shit, now I gotta work double time. Fuck, now I gotta play Gunstar Heroes, which is a great game, but when you're trying to play it as fast as possible, sucks.
Exactly.
That ruined it for me. And IGN, seeing the sausage factory of video games, kind of ruined video games for a long time. After working at Rev 3, I didn't play a console game until the pandemic.
Oh wow.
My wife and I bought a Switch and Animal Crossing because all of our friends were doing it.
Yeah.
And I bought it because normally I have pinball machines that I'm fixing and just old man shit.
Yeah.
I'm tinkering with my 1964 jukebox or my 1989 pinball machine. I hadn't picked up a console in years, and I picked up Animal Crossing, and I've just been playing that nonstop.
Sure.
But it hasn't made me want to play Last of Us or anything. I think it's just an isolated incident where I'm enjoying the slow pace of this.
Yeah, Animal Crossing is a game unto itself, right? Especially just like relaxing. What do you want to do? You want to pick flowers? You want to plant flowers? You want to cut down trees? What do you want to do? Go do that.
Oh my God, you want to make Putnam Whipple's outfit? Yeah, do it.
Oh yeah, you do.
Oh, I did it.
Oh, I saw.
Oh yeah.
I follow. I see what's up.
Oh yeah.
Eve. Or you have a bunch of those coming up in the friend zone.
Oh my God, that was. By the way, that was the fucking craziest thing we ever did. I blacked out for about 2 hours making that video.
Yeah.
When we made the Putnam Whipple, I was in character the whole time.
At E3, right?
I was at E3, and the original thing, and I think Fran stopped it at the last moment, but he was supposed to meet and scheduled a meeting with Miyamoto at the end. Like Putnam Whipple was supposed to meet Shigeru Miyamoto at the end and interview him. Like we set it up.
Yeah.
And Fran was like, "No, we can't do this to him. We cannot do this to him." And we're like, "Good thing." But wow,
that was close.
That was close. That was insane.
It's like when everybody's got their finger over the button in Russia and here, like we got close. that almost happened. Like you can step away now, but it was 1 second away. Whenever I watch that video, the moment I break the hardest is when you get the hard-boiled eggs out for Chobot. And she's like, "Oh my god!"
That was also the first time I ever ate a hard-boiled egg.
What'd you think?
It was terrible. But Brian and I the night before, because I had this fanny pack, and I thought, okay, it'll be funny if we fill the fanny pack with something. And then I said hard-boiled eggs, which then moved to where are we going to get hard-boiled eggs? Which moved to let's go to every gas station within walking distance and get the grossest hard-boiled eggs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
so we did that, and I had like 9 peeled hard-boiled eggs going up to Jessica Gobots, as he called her. Jessica Gobot. Chibi robot.
That was the thing, man. And I know I've said it to you in private, but saying it again, like you were just ahead of your time. And I mean, obviously, it's worked out quite well for you. But at IGN, especially in our sphere of video game coverage, right? You came in and nobody knew what the fuck to do with you. And it sucked.
Thank you. No, it did suck. It did suck. I mean, like I was doing on camera, and then they were like, "Do social media. What's that? I don't know. Figure it out."
Yep.
So I was figuring it out, and I was like, "Well, I want to make weird videos," so I'd make videos. Did a shot-for-shot remake with you of the volleyball scene from Top Gun.
Yeah. God, that was
we just did stupid stuff because I had all those flip cams.
Yeah.
Because they didn't give me
flip cams. They were all flip cams, weren't they?
They were all flip cams, yeah. And they didn't. Also, they wouldn't give me editing software, so I had to like have the jankiest, broken everything. Like you guys had state-of-the-art cameras and audio equipment and lighting. And they're like, no, you get a flip cam.
That's what you
and like Nick and everyone, they're over in the corner on Av, and they're like, no, you get Windows Movie Maker. It's like, what the fuck? Okay, I'll do what I can with what I have. And that's I remember when you and Jim stole the flip cams on Thanksgiving and made a video.
Exactly. I was about to say that. That's I don't delete anything on my phone, so I still have a screenshot of you explaining how to use it, and then your reaction to me and Jim running around, I think on whatever holiday it was, and like
it was on
doing
Thanksgiving.
Everyone's job.
I was in a Starbucks in Santa Rosa when you sent that to me. I remember where I was when you sent that. I was like, okay, all right.
And it was like the most like it bordered it was funny, but it was way too cutting. There was like one where we walked over to, I think, Nate Ahern's desk, and we're like, hey Nate, and like he wasn't there. We're like, oh, no different than any other day. Like, geez, why are we airing our personal grievances on Facebook video right now? What are we doing?
Oh God, we did so like you got the community mad at you for team killing and mag.
Yep. I forgot about that one. Yeah, I kept screaming it was somebody else, and the IGN community was furious.
I think his name was Vales. You're like, Vales, what are you doing, Vales?
Wasn't me. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
God.
And then it was just Jim Riley going like, "Oh, it's a great game. Rent, don't buy."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because I think Dunham was working on it. I think that was the first game that Dunham did after he left. Was Mag. Maybe.
Of course, massive action game. Why not start with that one? Jump right into that one. You know what I mean? Get right on it.
Yep.
Scott Bromley, I, of course, ask people on Patreon to write in with questions for you in a segment we call the Friend Zone. But before we get there, we're going to do some housekeeping.
All right, we're doing an ad?
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah. All right.
This is where we do We Have Cool Friends. Remember, you can get We Have Cool Friends usually each and every Monday morning at twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames, roosterteeth.com later, youtube.com/kindoffunny later, and of course, podcast services around the globe. If you want to go the extra mile, you can go to patreon.com/kindoffunny, where you can submit your questions and you can get the show ad free and you can get your name read in it, just like our Patreon producers, Mohammed, aka Momo, Blackjack, Al Tribesman the Predator, Connor Nolan, aka Connor Dow. Today, we're brought to you by MeUndies, so let's talk about them. Remember, this Pride Month, it's critical that we take a moment to recognize and remember the intersectionality between Pride and the racial injustices that continue to endure today. This month, through their MeUndies Gives initiative, MeUndies continues to take action to achieve their mission of creating a more thoughtful and accepting world by making $50,000 donations to both It Gets Better Project and Black Lives Matter. They, like MeUndies, are committed to standing up against hate and intolerance and creating a world where hope outshines fear for all people. With MeUndies Gives, simply by shopping MeUndies, you help support them and this cause. Of course, we support both those causes, and we support MeUndies. It's always a weird transition, but I love MeUndies. let's come off this very serious topic, Bromley. The fact that MeUndies are actually great underwear, and I wear them all the time. And I'm wearing them right now, and I'm looking, and it's my panda ones. I'm wearing my Christmas pandas right now. More importantly, especially for you, Scott, remember right now they have a Baby Yoda one. You can go get Baby Yoda MeUndies.
His name is the Child.
My apologies. There it is. That's why you're working for Star Wars, and I'm over here like, hey, what's undies? I got some underwear for you.
The Child.
The Child. Show me the baby. The MeUndies has a brilliant thing called Undies membership. You can go there every month and get them delivered to your doors. No thoughts. You just sign up for it. They come through. Plus, you get site-wide savings, so you can buy the new crazy patterns whenever they come around to at a discount. For my listeners, MeUndies has a great offer. For any first-time purchasers, you get 15% off and free shipping. You got to give this super softness a try, so why not get your 100% satisfaction guarantee? To get your 15% off your first order, free shipping, and a 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/morning. That's MeUndies.com/morning. Scott Bromley, it's time for you to answer to the kind of funny best friends in the friend zone. All right, you ready?
Can I just say something real quick about
Of
the
course.
Child?
Yes.
Working there, I cannot believe that didn't leak until the episode aired. Because I had known about it I had been on the set of Mandalorian while they were shooting the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the fact that stayed secret is incredible. We all thought for sure it was going to leak before the episode aired.
Is that like your life on the inside of seeing stuff and being like, that's awesome. Can't wait for that to get leaked out on a 4chan post.
Yeah. I mean, well, that, and the other thing was the volume, the tech that they were using with the LED wraps. Yeah. It's amazing. You forget you're standing on it when you stand on it, but the fact that we remained mum on how the show was shot, even while it was airing, knowing that it was all shot in Manhattan Beach, still was like, can't believe that's not out. That's crazy that they think we're on location, but we're not. We have 3 sound stages, one with the volume, one where you put a real set, and then one in the back lot where you can do outdoor stuff.
Crazy.
It's insane.
When they send you to something like The Mandalorian, are you there to percolate ideas for what you'd want to do on the online side?
I was there because for a couple of reasons. We were shooting BTS stuff for my show ahead of time, but also the mascot of the Star Wars show is a mouse droid, and the mouse droid in the Bill Burr episode is ours. It's our mouse droid. So we had to be there to make sure that they didn't like drive it off a cliff.
If they do, they drive off a cliff.
Yeah. No, that mouse droid's been in a lot of on-camera stuff. So it was using the Mandalorian. It was using the Disneyland commercial for Galaxy's Edge. Yeah, nice. It's been all over the place. Yeah.
Cozy Bear writes into patreon.com/kindoffunny, just like you can. It says, hey, Scott.
Hey.
What does the future of the comedy button look like to you? You and the other co-hosts have been upfront in the past about not wanting to blow up the podcast into something akin to Kind of Funny or RKG. And I respect this, especially considering how busy you are at Lucasfilm. But I still have fond memories of the videos that you produced for the Comedy Button YouTube channel during its early days. Is there any possibility of us getting more content like that later in the future? Thanks, Cozy Bear.
Say the future, we have a lot of stuff planned in the future, which we will probably be announcing very, very soon. That further evolve the show in a way that we have been trying to get going for a long time, and within the last 6 to 8 weeks has really kind of gone forward in a very positive, evolving way. Ooh. So, like, so much so that this is live. If it wasn't live, I'd just announce it. But I know, because it's. I think it might be part of it. We might be recording one of the evolutions tonight.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
All right.
So very imminent. Very imminent. And as far as the show's concerned, yeah, we're gonna keep going. Like, there's no reason to stop it. It's just something we do. As far as like blowing it out like you guys do, I mean, we clearly just do not have the time or the bandwidth to do that, because it's an undertaking that we can't take on. Also, Ryan lives in like Fresno. Yeah, he does. He commutes 8 hours round trip to get here to record in person.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's a time sink.
It's
How
a full-time gig if you want to do it like that. Yeah.
no, it's definitely a full time gig, and I would never. I don't think like I appreciate the hell out of everything that you guys do. I admire what you guys do, but there is no fucking way you could ever get me to do that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I look at it and I'm just like, Godspeed. I can't do that. Nope, that is too much for me.
Yeah, I
So
think that's what's been interesting about you guys in the comedy button is that when you were ahead of the game on so much of it, right? But especially when you guys did the Kickstarter back in the day, like
yeah.
that was the first time. That was before Patreon, and that's why I think when it happened, everybody was like, "What? They're doing a what now? And how does this work?"
Well, it was because my friend Robin Sloan was like one of the first people who ever had a successful Kickstarter. Is how I found out about the company, and I wanted to do it. And I remember all of us plus Arthur Gies went to Pete's Tavern for lunch, and I just remember we were going over like what we would need to buy and how much it would be, and we came to $4,000, and Arthur was like, "You'll never get $4,000. You'll never do it." And then and I was like, "Well, we got 39."
I want you to know, to this fucking day, and I granted, I know, yeah, we're co-founders with Nick and Tim or whatever, but like to this fucking day, when somebody says Arthur, I go Arthur,
Arthur,
and
I do too.
I've done it so many times that other people kind of funny who never worked at IGN are like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, one time Arthur at IGN reviewed Transformers and Scott said Arthur, and we thought it was the funniest thing in the world, and we've never stopped saying it." And they're like, "We don't know those people." I'm like, "I don't care."
It was because he was not only was he reviewing it, but he was reviewing it at full volume, and Soundwave was a major character in whatever campaign he was playing over and over again. So we just kept being like, "Arthur, turn it down. Arthur, please.
Please,
Arthur,
I'm trying to get work done. Can you stop right now?
Arthur, use your headphones." And it just stuck, and everyone at IGN kept on calling Arthur.
That was the
I,
best.
st- I still do it on Twitter. Every time he tweets something, I'll just write Arthur.
Said in Transformers voice.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, he knows. He knows.
Mitch Krasson writes in patreon.com/kindafunny. For Scott, what are some odd stipulations you have to work with when doing a show like Star Wars Jedi Temple Challenge? Or do you have free reign to do whatever you want with the show?
Oh no, I mean it's kids, so you have to deal with. There's Jackie Coogan laws that you have to deal with right off the bat.
And
So
that's like you can't work more than X hours a day or whatever.
yeah, so it's like the kids can be on set for an hour, and then they have to go back for an hour of schooling, and then they
Gotcha.
come back for an hour, which is why we would shoot 2 shows a day. So you would shoot uh, a set of kids doing round one, and then those kids would go do school, and then the second group of kids who were already doing school would come in, run the course, and then they would go to school, and the kids who were in school would come back down and do
Wow.
round two, and it was just tagging back and forth between school and the show. And then there's also like there are stipulations where we wanted um, I mean, when you're starting, you want everything to be bigger and better than it is, and you have to deal with the budget that you have, which we had, for what we were doing, in for budgets that we're used to, it was the biggest budget we've ever seen. But in terms of Star Wars, I can guarantee the catering on Mandalorian costs more uh, than our show.
Sure.
Uh, but the you're working within the budget constraints, and one of the things that we had to eliminate immediately was water of any kind, because if you do water, that means that you have to have double the amount of wardrobe. And because we weren't buying off the shelf wardrobe, and everything we had was custom made, so like all the vests are custom made in multiple sizes, all the tunics are custom made, multiple sizes, multiple colors, uh boots, shoes, everything, you need twice as many as that, and that eats away at your budget. So we had to eliminate the water. And then there's safety as well. So like adult shows there's a new Netflix show, Floor is Lava. Like
Yeah.
you can get away with a lot of the stuff they're doing on there, sharp edges, etc., because they're adults and they can take it, and and they can sign waivers. Whereas with kids, everything has to be padded. So, and because we didn't want to obscure the kids' faces like they used to do on the 90s shows with helmets and
Giant
goggles
helmet.
and
Yeah.
everything, we made everything out of foam. Like the entire floor had gym mats, and then they put astroturf and then real turf on top of that, and then every edge is rounded off, everything is sanded, everything is soft, everything is foam and safe. And that's another thing you have to take into consideration, which also again eats away at your budget from what
Yeah.
you would want to do. um and then uh for the kids, it's figuring out the target for the kids playing is, I think it was 11 to 14, but the target for kids watching is 6 to 11.
Mm,
So it's like finding the balance where the contestants are engaged and it's challenging, but also finding the balance where it's not difficult for that age to get what's going on.
sure,
It's
sure.
a weird tightrope to walk.
Did you do a lot of pilots for it then? Like to
No,
figure out what that was? No?
no. We, in fact, I wish we had. Again, this falls back into budget. I wish we had more time to prototype and to test and run kids through to find out what worked, what didn't. We had 1 day of rehearsals with kids in street clothes, 1 day of kids in a full dress, and then the third day we're shooting.
Wow.
We had basically rented our studio space for 2 weeks. So it was first, they were still loading in and building while the kids were running
Wow.
or testing the courses. So it still wasn't done. And like they brought in, when they brought in all of the trees, it was just like 4 or 5 truckloads of trees, like real trees that they were bringing in. It was like a garden. It was a nursery, but yeah, like that kind of stuff. I wish we had more time, and that's the things that, it was our first time making a game show, so we learned a lot
Sure.
of what we would change, what we would prioritize, stuff we prioritized that we shouldn't have put so much, and stuff that we should have. Those kind of lessons are all, postmortems for the next season.
I was gonna say, is there a next season guaranteed? You did 10 episodes for the first time, right?
I mean, people have to watch it. People have
Okay.
to. I mean, we're in a weird time right now. There's a world where we would have known, but we've been locked down since
March.
February,
Oh, February.
February, yeah.
Yeah.
So just watch the show.
StarWarsKids.com. Star Wars
Yeah,
Kids YouTube channel.
yeah,
Go subscribe, watch.
yeah. If you have kids, watch it. I mean, I think the biggest and best thing that has happened with this experience, regardless, is seeing pictures and videos of kids watching the show and enjoying it, and pictures and videos of kids on the playground or in the forest mimicking the stunts on the show.
That's awesome.
That take away everything, that alone is a huge success for me personally.
I saw you freaking out on Twitter this week, maybe, or within the last week, about the outfits being on Animal Crossing, right?
Oh my god, it's great! It's great. Someone made those. That's so cool. My character is wearing it right now.
Of course, you have to. You have to. If you make
Oh my
the
god,
show.
I got all of it. It was unbelievable. Like that's the kind of. So that was also the fun thing. Like telling, because Ahmed Best, he had been in Star Wars. He knew what it was like, and it was us and Ahmed kind of explaining to Mary Holland, like, hey, this is like, I know you've done a lot in your career. This is going to be something that stands out a bit, and it's going to be it's going to be weird for you to see like pins and Lego figures and fan art and drawings and
Yeah.
all this stuff that you're not really used to in the Upright Citizens Brigade comedy world. Like this is a whole new realm. And this was back when Celebration was still happening. And so we were like, you'll see at Celebration, you're going to be mobbed. It's going to be wild. But, yeah. I do wish that's the only reason why I wish we got to do Celebration selfishly, is I wanted to see people's reaction to the show in person instead of away from everything on a screen.
I mean, I don't think that. I mean, I understand what you mean, but I don't think it's selfish, right? I mean, that's you work on creating something, especially for as long as you were working on this and dreaming about this, and you have those milestone tent poles, right? Like, yeah, for me in Gary writing the Joker story, right? Like, I was so stoked in my mind to go downstairs from the office and buy it off the rack, right? And then it's like, that's impossible. I was like, okay, cool, right? All right. It's like, no big deal, whatever. It still happened. Oh, thank you. But yeah, it's like, It's just a different version of it, right? But like, I feel you on that.
Yeah, totally.
Zombie High X23 writes in to patreon.com/kindafunny and says, for Scott Bromley, as of late, lots of people have been saying that today's cartoons have a Cal Arts style. As a Cal Arts grad, would you say this is true? And could you clarify what people mean by that as in a style? Thanks and stay safe.
Oh my god. This is the dumbest thing. The dumbest thing on the internet I've ever seen is the Cal Arts style. So stupid. No, Cal Arts does not have a style. Here's what the Cal Arts style is. When I was in Cal Arts, the trend in animation was the Disney style. Like everything looked like Milt Kahl or Don Bluth. Like everything had that. Look it up, you'll know the style. That's what everyone, when we were in school, that we were taught to emulate, because we were drawing off of old model sheets. We were animating model sheets from like the Jungle Book or Iron Giant. We would animate different voice tracks to those so we could learn how to do it.
Sure.
But we would watch, because every year you got to make your own animated film. And the stuff that we would watch when I was there in particular and was really inspired by was UPA shorts, just these flat drawings that were a novelty, because by the time that we were there, we had, the 70s Hanna-Barbera, the 80s, crappy Ruby Spears, Saturday morning stuff. And then in the 90s, you had the Disney style, which took over. And that's what we were coming into the world. And we were like, no, man, this stuff from the 60s, this flat stuff, this graphic, this is where it's at, man. This is cool. So we would start drawing based off of the 60s style. And everyone at school had their own style. Penn Ward, friend of mine, went to school with them. He created Adventure Time. He had his own style. He drew like that coming into Cal Arts. Like that, like Adventure Time, the style of that show has not changed from when it was a short called Bueno the Bear, and our friend Mari made him a bear hat for Halloween one year, which became the hat that Finn wears in Adventure Time. My other friend JG Quintel, he did a regular show. His stuff looked like that coming into Cal Arts, and it's just the Cal Arts style is based on what inspires you to develop your own style. It's not Cal Arts teaching you to draw a certain way. If anything, Cal Arts teaches you to draw anyway. And the one thing that I think a Cal Arts style has that no one really talks about is in figure drawing, they teach you not to be so tight with your anatomical drawings and just be as loose as possible and as sketchy as possible. So like I can look at figure drawings and be like, that's the Cal Arts style. They learned at Cal Arts. But as far as like the animation and character design, it's all dependent upon the person's own personal taste and what they see that inspires them, and developing their own artistic voice. When I was drawing, I never based my stuff. I would look at stuff for inspiration, but I never was like, I have to draw exactly like this. This is the style I have to draw it.
Sure.
So it's just all based on personal taste. And like everyone getting mad at the Cal Arts style for Thundercats Go. It's like, no, that wasn't a style. It was just whoever was designing that show liked drawing that way and took their own spin on a previously created IP, and it became the Cal Arts style. Anyway, sorry. You want to get me heated, I could talk all day about Cal Arts style and how it's bullshit.
I love it. You should do a one-man podcast where you just talk about television and animation. I'd be like, right there, subscribe. Final question. Final question comes from Tyler Fulton, who wrote in to patreon.com/kindafunny and says, if Samus is pregnant and go into morph ball mode, what happened to baby? Thank you.
Oh, Nook, take your bell and turn into leaf. What happened to money? Thank you. Thank you. I don't know. I don't know what happens to me. I love that Alana has taken to that.
Right.
So she is just like, I love that people will tag me whenever she says that, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not mad. I don't care. It's for the world. It's like
I created this and gave it to all of you.
I like it's not new. It was on a video from 10 years ago that you never watched.
IP theft. This is IP theft.
I'm so mad. Oh, you took our bit. Like, we killed Putnam Whipple on the comedy button.
Amazing.
We did this bit where he was we thought he was taken in a POW camp, like in Tropic Thunder.
Yeah.
And they were just a big fan of that video. And he ended up raising his hand to wave goodbye. He got his hand chopped off by the helicopter blades.
That's how he'd go. That makes sense.
Yeah,
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. I love Putnam. Putnam's one of my favorite creations from that time.
Yeah.
He's just so pure.
Yeah. Just loved the games. Just loved the games and had those honest
and,
questions.
And everyone was like, "Oh, you're ripping off Borat." It's like, no, we're not. Like, you guys don't know the foreign journalists in games journalism. Like, that is what they're asking. Because going to so many of those events, you'd be like, they would be there and asking those types of questions, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, we've come a long way in games journalism.
I hope so. It was, boy, that was a weird time to come up in the industry.
Yeah, it was definitely the weird in between time of oh man, we just had a fucking zine we liked and now we run a website, to now it's like people actually like, I'm going to school for this. I'm a journalist. I'm doing this. I'm reporting at a real place.
Yeah, well, you were the only journalist. You were the only journalist at IGN when we were there.
I was one of a few people who had a college degree when I started there. Everybody else was like, when I dropped out, I've just been here forever. I'm like, oh, cool.
By the way, I still have the autographed picture you gave me of yourself.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad you kept that.
I still have it. Yeah, you were the only journalist there, and people would get mad at me online and be like, "Oh, but you're a games journalist." I was like, where have I said I was a games journalist? Yeah. I never said I was a games journalist.
Yeah. Video games.
Yeah, no, they're wild, y'all.
Scott Bromley.
Greg Miller.
I think you are one of the funniest people I've ever met.
Oh, stop it.
Love you to death, and I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of all your success. You deserve it more than anybody else.
I'm proud of you too, and I love you too, Greg. And I can't wait to finally go to your studio one day.
Oh my God, you just brought it up. Thank you so much. I was going to kick myself. Literally at like the 10-minute mark, you mentioned our old house, and I was like, I got a story to tell him. I'm so upset you aren't at the office, because I want you to go to the office, and it'll go to the new office too. But in our current office, when you go to the bathroom, if you open up like the storage space or whatever, we took the goofy Xing crossing sign from the old house that was in the old closet. Because I remember getting, I think Colin, like one of the final emails he ever sent about the house was like, do whatever you want, but like Bromley asked us to leave that sign. And like literally I left it there, and our old landlord was doing the final walkthrough, and he's like, what's this? And I'm like, I'll take it, fine. So Cool Greg moved it all the way with all the other kind of funny stuff to the thing, and now it is the goofy crossing.
Oh my God. Oh God, I wish you also took the "I love Scott" written in chalk on the balcony.
That was there forever. On my bedroom glass sliding door had your wife had written "I love Scott" in chalk on the wood thing, and rain never hit it, so it always said that.
Yep. That was there for years before I moved out.
I didn't want it. Really tied the room together, looking out and seeing it.
Definitely.
Scott, where can people keep up with you?
They can keep up with me on Twitter at Scott_Bromley. They can check out the Comedy Button every week. Comedy Button. They can watch the Star Wars show on YouTube.com/Star Wars. They can watch Jedi Temple Challenge every Wednesday at around 11ish on YouTube.com/Star Wars Kids. It is a kids channel, so it will not notify you when things go up because of COPPA. So check back frequently. Subscribe there. Like, there are some kick-ass animations on there too. Like, you're not going to be disappointed. Find me on the streets.
Find him on the streets, everybody. Thank you so much, Scott, for your time.
Thank you, Greg.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been We Have Cool Friends. Like I said, usually every Monday. It's irregularly scheduled. You can keep up, of course, on patreon.com/kindafunny, where Joey puts up the schedule each and every week on patreon.com/kindafunny. You can support us, get your name read. You can get the show ad-free, and you can ask questions of the next guest. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, Monday, it will be The Last of Us Part 2's Laura Bailey coming in for a We Have Cool Friends. So prep your questions there. I'm sure spoilers will be on, so feel free to ask whatever you want. Yeah, until next time, it's been a pleasure to serve you.